Black Panther gave us a spectacular big-screen introduction to Wakanda with a politically charged and emotional thriller that has important implications for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yippee-ki-yay movie lovers, it's Jan here, and today I'm discussing the thrilling ending to Black Panther and what it all means for future Marvel movies. In case you don't know already, I do regular videos about superhero movies, and I'm currently also running a Black Panther giveaway. For a chance to win, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment below about the movie. Obviously spoilers ahead, so take care if you haven't seen Black Panther yet. There are a number of themes woven into Black Panther that get some resolution by the end of the movie, but let's start with the very final scene before the credits, which is when T'Challa and Shuri visit the basketball court and apartment block in Oakland, where the movie's opening flashback scene was set. There's an interesting symmetry between the beginning and the end of the film, which demonstrates T'Challa has made a concrete decision to lead a positive change in the world and correct the wrongs committed by his father T'Chaka and Shuri, aka James, back in 1992, when they confronted T'Chaka's brother about helping Klaue steal vibranium. It was in Oakland where T'Chaka killed his brother N'Jobu. Though he did this to save Shuri, his actions sowed the seeds of anger and resentment in Prince N'Jobu's son Erik, aka Killmonger, when they chose to abandon him rather than take care of him. Unlike his father, T'Challa is determined to stop operating in secret, and he openly lands his Royal Talon fighter on the basketball court. Both in this scene and the subsequent mid-credits scene, T'Challa proves that he's ready to reveal the truth about Wakanda. He also wants Wakanda to have a positive impact on the world by converting the apartment block, which was the location of the tragedy in the flashback scene, as well as the buildings either side of it, into a Wakandan outreach centre. And he appoints Nakia as head of social outreach, while Shuri will spearhead a science exchange. Of course it's just a coincidence, but given that Sterling K. Brown plays N'Jobu, this moment made me think of the TV drama This Is Us, and how Brown's character Randall buys the rundown building where his father had lived so he could improve life for everyone living there. That final Oakland scene also shows the culmination of T'Challa's arc in the movie by proving that he could be king and still be a good man. If you're wondering what I mean by this, remember when T'Challa visited his father on the ancestral plane after ingesting the heart-shaped herb for the first time? Well, T'Chaka told his son, "You're a good man with a good heart, and it's hard for a good man to be king." T'Challa later learned what his father meant by this when Shuri revealed how he'd helped T'Chaka hide the truth about what happened to N'Jobu and his son Erik. Finally, during their second meeting on the ancestral plane, T'Chaka admitted to his son that he'd chosen Wakanda and its people over his nephew. And that lie about the events in Oakland, that truth which T'Chaka chose to bury for many years, actually, as T'Challa puts it, ended up creating a monster in the form of Killmonger. These moments of revelation in Black Panther reminded me of Thor Ragnarok. Spoiler alert if you've not seen that movie yet. Because we discovered in that film that Odin had hidden his daughter Hela and her role in violently conquering the 9 realms. Each of these stories involves concealing both the existence of relatives, T'Challa's cousin and Thor's sister, and the violence sometimes used to maintain seemingly benevolent rule. And of course in both stories it's the sons who are left dealing with the damage caused by their father's actions. T'Challa is appalled by what T'Chaka did and takes Nakia's advice not to let his father's mistakes define him. As she said, you get to decide what kind of king you're going to be. And that's exactly what T'Challa does when he refuses to stay with his father in the ancestral plane the second time they meet there. Instead of joining his ancestors, T'Challa chooses to return to Wakanda and prove he can be a good man and a good king by effecting real change in the world, sharing his nation's resources and technology for the betterment of others. By the end of the film, T'Challa's eyes have been opened by both Nakia, who told him she had seen too many in need to turn a blind eye any longer, and also by the events that led Erik on the path to become Killmonger. Killmonger's death is another crucial moment in Black Panther. In keeping with his beliefs, he preferred to die than be imprisoned, and his death in front of the Wakandan sunset was an emotional link back to the words he shared with his father about Wakandan sunsets being the most beautiful in the world. In addition to the symmetry between the film's opening and closing scenes in Oakland, there's also a certain symmetry around the fates of Killmonger and his father N'Jobu, each of whom died in complicated circumstances at the hands of a relative. T'Chaka had wanted his brother to face Wakanda's council for his crimes, but ended up killing him to save Shuri, while T'Challa was defending himself from Killmonger and Wakanda from his rule, but ultimately offered his cousin the healing power of Wakandan technology. As the movie's main antagonist, Killmonger's worldview was very much in opposition to Black Panther's outlook, but then the two men had very different upbringings. T'Challa was raised in Wakanda, which, due to the vibranium meteorite, was able to isolate itself from the world and was therefore never subject to the colonialism experienced by their African neighbours. On the other hand, in many ways, Killmonger represents the African experience as a result of colonialism, slavery, and racism. Erik was brought up in Oakland, which is both the birthplace of the film's director Ryan Coogler and the city where, in 1966, the real-life Black Panther Party began with a focus on combating police brutality against the black community. By the way, 1966 was also the year Black Panther first appeared in Marvel Comics. In Coogler's film, as we learn from Shuri, Killmonger's father N'Jobu experienced discrimination in Oakland, and that led him to act against Wakandan policy by smuggling out vibranium in an effort to fight back. When Killmonger takes over as ruler of Wakanda, he declares that the sun will never set on the Wakandan Empire, echoing the phrase used to describe the former Spanish and British empires, which were so large it was said to be always daytime somewhere. Killmonger further overturns Wakandan traditions when he orders the burning of the heart-shaped herb. And director Ryan Coogler reflects Killmonger's revolution and the fact he's turning how Wakanda operates completely on its head by having the camera revolve 180 degrees for an upside-down position as the new king enters the throne room. Michael B. Jordan has said of Killmonger that he's always 10 steps ahead. He's very patient. That's a very dangerous attribute to have as a villain because he's going to sit and wait and he's going to plan and calculate every move. Killmonger gained both tactical and military skills on combat missions in countries such as Afghanistan and Iraq, and he appears to kill his girlfriend and then also Klaue, who he'd been collaborating with, seemingly without hesitation when he deems it necessary to getting into Wakanda. Killmonger is incredibly effective and ruthless in carrying out his plan to take over the nation. Yet, despite his extremes, you can empathise with his grievances. In short, he's an incredible antagonist. And although ultimately Killmonger fails to complete his plans, the fact that T'Challa was deeply affected by the experiences of N'Jobu and Killmonger and the actions of T'Chaka means that other kids from Oakland can now believe in Wakanda and its incredible technological advances without thinking it's just a fairy tale. It really is good to see Marvel developing their villains better in recent movies, and Michael B. Jordan is such a fantastic actor who brought so much to this film that it's a real shame to think he won't be returning, but Killmonger did have a great arc. The other great secondary villain in the movie was Ulysses Klaue, played in a brilliantly unhinged and humorous way by Andy Serkis, and again it's a pity his character is dead. Of course, these are comic book movies, so technically any character can still come back from the dead. In fact, there is one Marvel villain I do think could make a stunning return in the MCU for a very good reason, and that's a certain green goddess. And you can check out my theory on why I think we'll see her again right here. An important recommendation that T'Challa followed from his father was to surround himself with good people, and it was his little sister Shuri who played a huge role in helping him take back the throne. She and Nakia are extremely loyal to T'Challa, though both of them have a rebellious streak, and they encourage the young king to push beyond the status quo. Shuri herself is constantly pushing herself to another level, actively developing and improving her tech. Indeed, as she told her brother, just because it works doesn't mean it can't be improved. In fact, that's something I think T'Challa takes on board in opening up Wakanda. And it was great to see Shuri so excited in the final scene when her brother announced she was going to lead the Wakandan technology exchange with the rest of the world. I can't wait to see what tech she gets to develop in Avengers Infinity War. And I'd love to see her meet Tony Stark at some point, as I think their banter and talk about amazing inventions could be fantastic. There's also the possibility she could don a Black Panther suit of her own in the future, and there's a hint at that via the toothed neckpiece she wears in some scenes in the film. By the way, I think it's interesting that the new Wakandan Center will be established in Oakland because the next Marvel movie after Avengers Infinity War is Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is set in San Francisco, and geographically Oakland is just across the bay. In fact, the Oakland Bay Bridge made an appearance in the first Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer, and I wonder whether there's a chance we could see Black Panther or some Wakandan characters cross over into that movie later this year. Another thing T'Challa achieves by the end of the film is a sort of repairing of relations with the Jabari tribe, whose leader M'Baku does not take kindly at first to his request that they join him against Killmonger, as previous kings have not bothered to visit them in centuries. T'Challa spared M'Baku's life during their ritual combat for the throne, but M'Baku already repaid that debt when he helped save T'Challa after Killmonger flung him off the side of a mountain. Still, in the end, M'Baku and his people do rally to T'Challa's cause of saving Wakanda from Killmonger, because they realise, as Black Panther explained, that this affects everyone. And in doing this, M'Baku and his tribe have a huge impact on the final battle. And talking of the final battle, the Dora Milaje also play a key role, with Okoye literally bringing a rhino to a standstill by fearlessly confronting her love Wakabi as soon as she realises that Killmonger is not the rightful king. She is an incredible fighter, as are her Dora Milaje sisters, and I cannot wait to see more of them on screen. Now, I spoke about how important the final scene is in showing how T'Challa is transforming and opening up Wakandan society to the wider world. And this could have a big effect on the rest of the MCU, which we see the beginnings of when T'Challa addresses the United Nations in the first end credits scene. And I've actually got a separate video with a full breakdown of that scene, plus the final stinger scene with Bucky, and what it all means for Avengers Infinity War. And you can watch that by tapping right up here, or clicking the link in the video description below. So were you impressed by Black Panther's first solo movie, and are you hyped to see more of Wakanda in a sequel and in Avengers Infinity War? And which were your favourite characters in the movie? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to also subscribe to enter my Black Panther giveaway. The winner of my Deadpool 2 giveaway is on screen right now, so if that's you, make sure you private message me with your details. I really appreciate all your support, so if you enjoyed this, do hit the like button and share the video. And why not join the notification squad by clicking the bell for all my new Black Panther and other videos coming very shortly. Also, tap any of the links here to check out more videos you might like. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers!